And we are live. Welcome to the MLB strategy / live before lock show. We're talking early slate today. It is Wednesday, August 17th. We're going to start it off the same way we always do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Myself and Adam are here to give you all the goods for this 6-game early slate that we've got going on. Before we talk about anything, we got to start here. Last night, do we want to talk about how Eric stepped in some poo-poo and got himself a second?
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I like when Eric wins.
I am not unhappy for him. Let me be very clear. I was very surprised to see that he did it with 4 bullets.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Unless lineup study was wrong. So I pulled lineup study up this morning on the process show to compare 150 max or ownerships across both, see like where people were heavy, where people were light. And I just happened to glance to, I didn't see the tweet from last night or anything like that. I just happened to glance to my left and saw E. Lindy in second with 4 lineups. And then he smacked that second. That is legit. That must feel significantly better than if you're maxing it.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it like years and years ago, and it feels fantastic. But yeah, no, I was really, really happy for him. He had tweeted, so like I saw it happen live and didn't know like what we were sweating. He like Julio Rodriguez was coming up in like the 9th, and Eric tweeted something like one more at bat for Julio like one time. And I just thought he was tweeting about like PrizePicks or something. And so I replied to him and said, "Hope you die." And then Rodriguez homered. Like as I went to pull up the at bat, like I saw that he had homered. And so I was just like, wow, this guy just got like a PrizePicks bet on like a final at bat or something. And then I pulled up, I was like, oh, I'll see if like he won. I'll make sure it wasn't like, a DraftKings tournament or something. I pulled up and he's in like 3rd, but then he also had a win coming. I was like, oh, okay, that was worth like 25, 30K. Like I'll actually congratulate him.
Yeah, that's a legitimate congratulations. Yeah, and then I saw like the tweets and everything from last night. So kudos to Eric for picking up a big time chunk of change. Hitting a 4-bulleter is not too shabby. Was he close to first? I actually didn't dig into it any further.
I'm pretty sure first just ran away with it.
Okay, that I wouldn't feel like we know how bad it feels to be one spot away, just given what we see in these payout structures. But even for this case, I'm pulling it up now just so I could take a look at his lineup. We've got it up on the screen right now, so you guys can see his tweet and his lineup. Yeah, he was. Oh yeah, he didn't. He wasn't even. No one was close. Eric finished second, 16 full points behind first. That's a massive W for Dr. Funk K. But yeah, Eric with 4 lineups yesterday. His next closest lineup, all three other lineups were out of the money. So just hit it clean. Morton, Ray, obviously Morton went from projected for 0 during our deeper dive to scoring 40.6 real fantasy points.
Yeah, he had a hell of a game.
Yeah. I thought Manoah was onto one until you jinxed it by messaging me and telling me that Manoah was pitching really well, and then he immediately gives up 2 dongs.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't take guys against the Orioles. They're too good.
Yeah, something like that. 5-man twin stack for Eric. Solo Travis d'Arnaud, who only put up 6. Julio Rodriguez, obviously, as we detailed, went for 24. And then Kerry Carpenter, the one-off at a projected 1% owned salary, 2K, goes for 23. We talked about Carpenter in the show and how it looked good. So
yeah, he was in my single entry lineup.
There we go.
Not that I knew that ahead of time, but
$24,495 worth of profit on that lineup for Eric. Kudos to him.
Somebody said he won the $4 too.
Oh, did he really?
I don't know what somebody said.
Apparently he did. So that add another 5K to that one. Wonder if it's the same lineup. I assume that it is. Yeah, I don't see the screen. So it is the same lineup. So that was enough to get there. Didn't have any stray bullets going for over 200 like we saw in the relay throw. So great day for Eric. That's probably a really nice way to wake up. I'm sure he's quite happy.
Yeah, he knew it before he went to bed too.
Oh yeah. So I normally just think that everybody is me and they just wake up to the news of how they're doing.
Yeah, well, he also lives on the West Coast, so that helps.
That's a good point. I'm not at my best today, man. Not well slept. Went to bed at 11 last night, later than I wanted to.
Oh, 11.
Yes, that's very late for me. Got the nudge at 6:45. Hey, do you want to take care of the dogs this morning? I was like, I don't, but I understand what you're saying. So I got up and I dealt with that. Anyway, kudos to Eric. I killed a good 6 minutes of the start of this show because we only have 6 games to talk about. And judging by the way that Adam looks, I needed to kill some time.
Yeah, well, do you want to know the most impressive part of that?
Eric's win or
Well,
what?
No, I managed to not get anything done as far as like making my lineups. So,
Of course
like,
you did.
like normally I would have used that time that you were talking to like finish up my spreadsheet and start building lineups, but just didn't do any of it.
Great work, man. Great.
I was just too
absolute
into the
great work.
conversation and excited for Eric.
Are you excited to talk about the Reds and Phillies, the first game up on today's slate?
Yeah. A couple questions in chat. How much of Morton did Josh and Adam get to last night? I had like 38%. And then you look tired. Yeah, I am tired.
I had 0. I didn't play last night. I was prepping for my vacay, which starts the moment this show ends. So, yeah, didn't play at all last night, unfortunately. Would have liked to. Just didn't have time. Had to pack. Car's packed, so I feel ahead of the game for the rest of my life, at least. Hey, based on the way that we had Charlie Morton projected in the deeper dive, I would have had a shit ton and been way over the field, but that seemed to be changed up a little bit. Morton actually ended up being the most interesting guy. So he was 26% owned in the relay throw last night, 17.5% in the mini max, 8.3% difference between the mini max to the relay throw. That was the biggest gap of any pitcher, either positively or negatively. Verlander was sort of the opposite side, chalkier in the mini max, less owned in the relay throw. When I say that to you, does anything stand out in your mind as to why something like that would happen?
I think I can tell you exactly why that happened last night. So I mean, one, typically when that happens, it just means that I think it means one of two things. One, it's just a better play, like it's a good play, and that's why people are playing it more at high stakes.
Yeah.
Two, I think, or I would assume people playing the higher stakes one are paying attention to ownership more. So it could be a situation where, you have like a Braves team or Orioles team like from the other day where, they're projected for 3% ownership and everybody just plays them. But I was paying close attention to Charlie Morton stuff because I knew like we updated our projection like late. And so I was paying attention just like kind of across the industry. Another site that people use had Charlie Morton projected for 6% ownership. So I'm going to guess that a large percentage of people just threw in a horrible ownership projection on him and then jammed him in.
There we go. Ray was also slightly more owned in the relay throw compared to the mini max. That makes perfect sense to me. We're always going to see chalk congregate a little bit higher in stuff like that. From a hitting perspective, biggest difference between a mini max 150 5-man stack and the relay throw, that would be your Kansas City Royals, 2.4% higher.
Oh, so I mean, that might have all just come from me, honestly.
They were less than 1% owned in the mini max for 150 maxers. The opposite of the Royals in these contests, that would be the St. Louis Cardinals for last night. Owned significantly more in the mini max than they were in the relay throw. Also, 72% of stacks were 5-man stacks in the mini max, 83% in the relay throw. So the more sharp pro contest stacking 5-mans more frequently than the lower dollar contests.
That makes sense. Not, most people aren't morons like you just running non-stacks.
That's fair. So I'm taking a look at this kind of stuff every morning on the process. If you guys want to see stuff like that, let me know. But I shared all of this information this morning. Felt like it was relevant for today's discussion after seeing Eric's win.
Yeah. So that makes sense. You shared it all this morning. I was wondering how you were just pulling this all up so quickly. I was like, that's pretty impressive, but now I'm not impressed.
I mean, I am incredibly good at my job. I am able to carry you through these shows with no preparation whatsoever. So there's also that. You ready to do this now?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Reds and Phillies. 3.7 run implied total for the Reds, 4.7 for the Phillies. Nick Lodolo and Ranger Suarez going here. Lodolo is actually the most expensive pitcher on today's slate. He is not the wealthiest in terms of projected ownership, however, 12% right now at that 9,600 mark. That's basically, or less than half of the ownership of Ranger Suarez, 8,100 against an absolutely awful Cincinnati Reds team. I understand why he's getting the ownership, but this mid tier is a very interesting conversation today.
Yeah. Good spot for Suarez at 8,100. Not the same strikeout stuff that we had seen from him last year, but he's still been solid. 3.74 not strikeout percentage. XFIP, 19.6% strikeout percentage. Really good matchup against the Reds, like you said. I got logged out of the site, so don't have the top pitchers tool in front of me. But we have him projected for 27% ownership. I think that makes sense given the matchup. Like looking at what's around them, you have George Kirby pulling similar ownership in a really good spot. Clevenger pulling more ownership against Miami. So I think that ownership makes sense.
I don't think it's crazy. I like Kirby a little bit more than Suarez, and I like Clevenger a lot more than Suarez. So he is a guy that's actually taking a step back for me to get to two other guys. And then I have a third guy that no one's getting to that we can have a conversation about in a bit. But it totally makes sense to get basically any pitcher that can play the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are terrible. So even in a hitter's park, even in the middle of summer, they're still god awful. So sign me up for that ownership. How do you want to handle Lodolo against the Phillies as the biggest pay up option on today's slate?
So I'm glad they actually priced him up a bit, but I like him in tournaments. I mean, he's only projected for 14% ownership. And the reason why is just that you have that mid-range of good pitchers that are getting a lot of ownership. But Lodolo's got legitimate strikeout stuff, 28.6% strikeout percentage so far this year, 3.84 XFIP, highly regarded prospect. I like getting him in tournaments if you can. Obviously, it's a pitcher, and I don't want to go too far out of my way to prioritize paying for him, if I'm costing myself a lot of bats, but I kind of doubt that's going to be the case. So at his current projected ownership, I like the idea of getting there. It's not a great matchup against the Phillies, but he's good. And this Phillies lineup really is not that scary. Like you still don't have Schwarber, Segura leading off. That's a tough strikeout. Hoskins, Bohm, Real Muto, Castellanos, but then like Sosa, Hall, lefty, Vierling, and Nick Maton, like it's not the best lineup here.
It is not the best lineup, that's for sure. And that's how you can get to Lodolo today. Do you think the price tag makes sense for him?
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to grab the updated top stack tool and top pitchers tool. I didn't realize that we had a second ownership update, so I'm trying to make sure that I get everything we need here. But we'll kick it over. We'll talk bats at this point. Ultimately, rostering both pitchers here is going to be something you probably want to do if you're playing multiple lineups. Let's talk Phillies bats first, obviously. Third in our top stack tool, fourth in ownership. This is where it gets kind of tricky because do I think Lodolo looks good and is good? Yes. Do I like the Phillies today? Also, yes.
Yeah, agreed. And I had to laugh because we had the conversation pre-show that we probably wouldn't get any lineups during the show, so it would be easy for me to just build lineups and not worry about it. 15 minutes into the show, the Orioles released their lineup 3.5 hours into advance.
Feels like you should have known that with it being the Orioles and all of it.
Yeah. No Adley Rutschman, so that sucks. Austin Hayes is back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really like the Phillies that much.
Okay.
Lodolo, I think, is a good pitcher. The park is solid, but again, it's similar last night where it's like 75 degrees, so it's not going to play up as much. So far this year against right-handed hitters, a 28% strikeout percentage, 130 expected ISO, giving up literally nothing to lefties. So I don't know. I'm actually just kind of surprised by the Phillies implied run total. It seems like, not that I'm one to ever advocate for things to bet because I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, but it seems like a spot where betting some sort of under on the Phillies would make sense.
This one's tricky. The reason that I think they stand out most for me is just how easily stackable they are. Second, first, third catcher in your first four spots is going to make it pretty simple. Those are not the worst guys in the world to get either, especially like Hoskins and Real Muto. You get two guys with MPEs that have very reasonable prices. Now, Nick Manton is not good, but at least, and neither is Sosa for that matter, but they are two guys with MPEs. I just think they fit pretty well. I'm a little surprised that, like, I mean, we really, from a top stack and top value perspective, they are coming in second in our stack score. Does that seem surprising to you?
Yes.
Okay. Do you like the Reds on the opposite side of this one? This is our number one value stack of the day, and they are pulling no ownership for a 6-gamer.
Not particularly. Jonathan India leading off is decent, but he's also expensive, so I think it's kind of tough to get there. Albert Almora hitting 5th at 2,200 is fine, but these guys suck. Like, there's just there's nothing I can even like point to in this lineup and say that I like.
Jonathan India, 103 projected WRC plus from Steamer. Jake Fraley is at 100 on the dot. Everyone else in the lineup is 93 or below, including a 65 and a 76. This might be the worst offense that we have talked about yet. That said, should you have more than 3.5% of them if on a 6-gamer, if Ranger Suarez is 25% owned? I think the answer is yes. I have more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I get a little bit more just because they are a good value too.
Yeah, 15% chance of being the top value stack. I mean, look, they're under-owned from a top stack perspective too.
When it comes to value teams, I'm obviously going to play Kansas City more than Cincinnati. Like, that just goes without saying.
Very true. Oh my God, like, the Reds are free. The thing about that is that they should be free. The guy that I got to the most is Lopez, 2K second base option. No power whatsoever. I mean, there's no power in this lineup, basically anywhere outside of Aquino. Like, Fraley and India have relative power, but not big power in comparison to what you normally see. This is just it's a wild team for me to get 6% ownership to. Doesn't feel good. Anything else you want to touch on here, Reds and Phillies? Let's talk cash options from the Phillies side. Segura seems like a pretty likely option at second. What else would you do with the Phillies?
Yeah, Segura at 3,800 I think seems pretty likely. Real Muto possibly if you're paying up a catcher, but I kind of assume that you're not going to. Castellanos at 3,900 maybe. I would think Segura is the most likely, and then it's kind of just like anybody else 2 through 5 is possibly in there.
Okay. Yeah, Segura's price tag and spot in the order just makes it really difficult, other than the fact that Lodolo is good. I got nothing else here.
I was gonna get. I'm just crunching my top 100 projected lineups.
Okay.
So, yeah, Segura is in like all of them. Hoskins is in a lot of them. Real Muto, almost all of them. Real Muto is in half, and then Castellanos, Baum, and Sosa are just sort of sprinkled in.
Okay. Ronnie Turner says 195 people watching. Hit that like button. It sounds like Ronnie Turner is minutes behind. We've got 425 people in here, 78 likes. Let's get that up to 100. 22 likes to 100 seems reasonable enough. As I let you guys know, schedule for the rest of the day. Adam will be back at 5 p.m. for the deeper dive. Live Before Lock will then be at 6 o'clock. But we're not done there. PGA Live Before Lock. I almost said MLB Live Before Lock again. PGA Live Before Lock will be up at 8 p.m. talking the BMW Championship. Free content for today. You're watching this show. The free MLB content is our ownership projections. You should absolutely be using those. PGA Top Golfers tool, also free. If you are interested in playing PGA this week, that is the tool that you want to be free. If you want to see what we've got behind the paywall from a golf perspective, the Top Golfers tool is going to be a big time help. Nats and Cubs, 3.9 run implied total for the Nationals, 5 for the Cubs. Corey Abbott going for Washington, Drew Smyly going for the Cubs. How do you feel about 16% ownership going to Drew Smyly? I get the matchup is good, but doesn't feel like a spot that I want 16% of Drew Smyly.
Yeah, I mean, also a short slate, 20% strikeout percentage, 4.12 xFIP so far this season. reasonable price tag at 7,700. I think it makes some sense. Probably getting a little bit more than he should. Like the thing that stands out in the top pitcher stool, and this will surprise nobody, at least coming from me. Daniel Lynch probably should be getting some of that ownership from Smiley.
I got another one too on top of that we will get to.
Let me guess, you like Ross Stripling against the Orioles?
Should I not?
No, I mean, I agree with you that he's underowned.
Okay.
I disagree with what you're going to say about the Orioles, although no Rutschman makes that lineup a lot worse.
Well, like I said, I'm good at this. So it is Ross Stripling. At least you know where the truth lies. We'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, I mean, this Orioles lineup is bad, by the way, so I'm going to actually be with you there.
Interesting. Well, that's going to get to more Ross Stripling because I haven't even updated for that.
Ryan
but
McKenna
really, the driving factor here is the fact that he's 5%. Like, do you like who? I'm just going to bring it up now since we're talking about Smiley. Who's a better option today, Drew Smiley or Ross Stripling?
At current projected ownership, I think Ross Stripling.
Okay. That's sort of the problem for me at this point. So we'll talk about it.
Hang on a second. He is coming back from the injured list. So 5 innings in his most recent rehab start. Yeah, so I think it's Stripling.
Okay. There it is. That's what I like to hear. Is it Corey Abbott?
It is certainly not Corey Abbott.
No, it is not. 6.5% owned for Corey Abbott. Is there any situation you're getting there, or does that any share of Corey Abbott just become Daniel Lynch for you?
Probably just becomes Daniel Lynch. I mean, it's an okay strikeout spot for him, but the Cubs do actually have some power in their lineup as well. 28 1/3 innings at AAA for the Nats this year. Abbott did strike out 25.6% of hitters. Zips projects him for a 22% strikeout percentage going forward. The bat's at 21.4%. He's not that good. Like 4.92 xFIP at AAA. So far, 6 total appearances, 16 2/3 innings in the majors for the Nats this year. 6.46 xFIP. I'm more likely to just play Lynch if I have to get down to that price range.
I think that makes some sense. I don't think that I'm going to get all the way down at all, but I would certainly be leaning Lynch over Abbott. We definitely need to talk here about the Cubbies. Second in our top stack tool, third in value, third in ownership. This is my number one stack today. I think it's pretty easy as well. I have them in basically everything that's going on clear across the board. I like it. Other than the fact that they have infinite outfielders in the center of this lineup, you get bailed out a little bit with a couple MPEs. What do you see here for Chicago against Abbott?
Yeah, a lot of guys that are showing up in cash lineups, a lot of just good value combined with guys that are like the best of their positions. You have McKinstry leading off with third base outfield eligibility at 2K flat. Not a great hitter, but leading off, he's going to be very, very easy to get into lineups. Horner looks like a top shortstop option. Suzuki, Happ, Reyes, all of those guys look good. You have Ortega back. He's hitting 6th at 3K. This is a team that I think is really easy to get to and in one of the better spots on the slate so far in his limited time with Washington this year, or even going back to last year. I think he was with the Cubs, maybe. Yeah, with the Cubs. Still a limited sample, but a 212 expected ISO to righties, 282 to lefties for Abbott. It just sets up as a really good spot for Chicago.
Yeah, I'm a big fan here of getting to Chicago. I'm just getting to everybody. I can't even like really point anybody out. Not really any crazy prices either. Wisdom at 5,400, but you get the MPE and you get a gigantic power threat. So you're kind of buying exactly what you're looking for on a day like today. This is my most exposed team right now. I have nothing much else that I could add other than the fact that I want to play all of the Cubs. How do you feel about the value on the opposite side here for the Nats? They are 8th in our top stack pool. That's going to be out of 12, but they are the second best value option, 7th currently in ownership at 6% aggregate. What do you see here for Washington? I think they're mildly appealing against Smiley.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting spot just because it is a shorter slate. Smiley is somebody that gives up some power. You know, I mentioned when we first started talking about him that he's been decent this year, you know, the 4.1 xFIP, but 1.4 home runs per 9. He's typically given up power in the past as well. 182 expected ISO to righties, 225 to lefties so far this season. Lane Thomas leading off at 2,300 looks like a good value. You have power with Luke Voit and Nelson Cruz. You have a cheap catcher option in Keibert Ruiz. So I do actually have interest in the Nats here, which is something I don't think I've said in the last month.
I'm a little surprised about it too. Not that you have interest in the Nats, but that I am getting there. I'm basically with the field. I have 7% in the aggregate right now. I don't have anybody that I'm just like soaring over the field on, but I think the idea of having, 5 to 10% of most of these guys makes sense. You get a little bit of added leverage on the opposite side of Smiley. The Nats are bad, but they're not like there's not like 4 guys at the bottom of the order that are just true on dreadful. It's sort of just a lot of below average to average guys, whereas like the Reds are just, I mean, I've got the Reds WRC plus 10 points below the Nats. That's how insanely bad the Reds are. So I can't put the Nats in the same bucket. They're obviously not good, but I think they
that was
work
kind of
today
my
at these
thought
prices.
too. Like when I looked, when we talked about Cincinnati, and you look at like the top stacks tool, and you have Washington, Cincinnati, and KC, kind of in the same top stack percentage range, and all projecting as good values. It's just like the Nats and the Nats I think are better than the Reds, and KC I think is a hell of a lot better than the Reds in terms of talent. So it's like the Nats and KC I think kind of get bumped up for me.
I agree. Let's talk cash options from the Cubs side. Obviously, basically anything in that first 5, I assume you'd be okay with.
Yeah. Let me pull it back up. In the lineups, I just built 100 lineups, no randomness, anything like that. McKinstry was in nearly all of them. Horner was in about half, and then you get Suzuki, Happ, Reyes, all like 15 to 20%. So Gomes was in a couple. But yeah, it's just McKinstry. I think is basically a given in cash, and then you're just mixing in some combination of a few other Cubs.
I want to run mine just to see what it looks like if I have the same sort of output. I know I accidentally clicked start without turning randomness on earlier, and Segura was in absolutely everything, and I'm
He was
not expecting that to change. McKinstry is in everything for me. Suzuki, Herner, both in the 80s. Real Muto and Hoskins basically around 60. So I think we're sort of in the same range for everything here. McKinstry and Segura, of everything that we've talked about so far, I would say are basically 2 cash locks at this point. Or as close to lock as we're going to get to on any sort of slate.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 guys in those 100 lineups that I ran. There are 6 guys that are in 90 plus of them. Segura is in all of them, and McKinstry is in 98 of them.
There we go. Good to know.
Hoskins 92. Since we already talked about that game.
You got a bit more of Hoskins than I do. I got him at 53, but it's not all that surprising. It's a coin flip between him and Vlad, and I don't really mind which one I would end up with.
Yeah, you probably have a bad Austin Voth projection, but we'll get there.
Probably. What? 4.9 run implied total for the Royals, 5 for the Cubs, or sorry, 4.7 for the Phillies. The offensive environment is there. Did I say Royals?
Yeah.
I meant Blue Jays. Everybody knows.
Shit, the Royals have a 4.9 implied run total. They're going to be in every lineup I play.
Yeah. They have a 3.4 based on my data, and they might still be in every lineup you play.
Yeah, it's fair.
Anything else, Nats and Cubs?
No.
Great job getting up to 100 likes, by the way. Soared right through it. 118. 150 is in our sights. Twins and Royals. Here we go. 4.6 run implied total for the Twins, 3.4 for the Royals. Tyler Mahle and Daniel Lynch going in this one. I believe we have found one of our cash pitchers. That's going to be Tyler Mahle. 8,700 here against the Royals. Solid enough strikeout matchup. 46% ownership at that salary. I think that the ownership is clearly warranted. I think that he looks really good. Am I a little bit lighter than that 46% mark in 150 lineups? I am. We'll talk about that in a bit, but I certainly understand why he's getting the ownership, and I think it's a great spot.
Yeah, agreed. I also agree that he's a cash pitcher. He was, but both pitchers, or there were 2 pitchers that were in just every lineup I crunched, and he was one of them. 3.3 implied run total for Kansas City. Mally's got a good 25.8% strikeout percentage, 3.94 xFIP, reasonable price tag. You have a Kansas City lineup. We've talked about it a lot where there is talent in this lineup in terms of guys that are, top prospects. This is going to be a good team very shortly, I think. But they're still learning, kind of on the fly at the major league level. And Tyler Mahle's a pretty good pitcher. So 8,700 looks very good for him.
Would you prefer, in a GPP perspective, Tyler Mahle or George Kirby? I know we haven't gotten to Kirby yet, but
I
want to flip their ownership.
Yeah, I mean, the concern on Kirby, I think, is like how many pitches is he going to be allowed to throw? Because we've been seeing him just kind of limited to like 85-ish. But I also don't really know how much I care.
Fair.
Like, it's not like Tyler Mahle goes that deep either.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like just looking at the way that their ownership is set up right now. I just like the idea of flip-flopping these two. We'll see if that holds as we get, closer to lock. But
I mean, I have Mahle like 4 points higher than George Kirby in medium projection.
I got a 0.9. So
we like on the website have him 2.5.
Okay. Sounds like the site projections are probably like the split the difference.
Yeah.
At that point between you and I.
Yep.
At which point I would probably have these guys as close to similar, given their current ownership.
Yeah, like I kind of think that the ownership makes sense to me, like the way it's distributed. Like maybe a little bit more for Kirby and a little bit less for Mahle, but I don't think I end up flipping them.
Okay. Talk to me about your boy Daniel Lynch, 6K, basically unowned.
He's not great, but he is cheap. It's a tough matchup for him against Minnesota as well. Not pulling much ownership at 6.7%. We have him with a 13% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. He's not somebody that like I really want to get to, but on a 6-game slate, if people aren't going to go there and they're going to go to nearly every other pitcher that I'm interested in, then I think I probably end up just getting some and hoping for the best. There's nothing really like great about him. 22.4% strikeout percentage, 4.3 xFIP. He is a highly regarded pitching prospect. He's young. He probably will be pretty good. But it's more so just, this is an average-ish pitcher that nobody's playing, and it's one way to be different.
Let's talk bats now. Not a lot of craziness here, although the Twins are pulling a bit of ownership. They are at 11% aggregate, 5th in ownership, 5th in our top stack tool, 8th in top value. Do you like using the Twins to target against Lynch?
Yeah, I think that, kind of like I was saying, it's as far as rostering him goes, I'm not like in love with him as a pitcher. And I think that Minnesota does have plenty of power in their lineup. So it's a really high upside spot for them. Buxton's really expensive, but outside of that, this is a cheap lineup as well.
You getting any options for the Twins from cash? I'm assuming Buxton and Correa are at least sneaking into something.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah,
I don't have either one, but
all righty. What about the Royals bats? I know you want to do this. 10th in top stack, but 5th in ownership. Not getting any love at 4% owned. You just going to be right back where you normally are, overfield on the Royals?
Yeah, I would expect to be. We kind of talked about it already, where Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Washington are just like very, very similar in top stack percentage and not getting much ownership, but also very good in terms of value. Kansas City, I think, has the most talent out of these teams. Like Washington's the one that I can make the best case for getting to, just because I think Smiley is obviously not as good as Tyler Mahle, and Washington's better offensively than Cincinnati. But KC, I think, has the most talent in terms of just a lot of young, really good hitting prospects that sooner rather than later are going to put it all together. And then in addition, you're getting, half the field or so playing Tyler Mahle. So I think the tournament case for Kansas City is pretty strong.
Yeah, I expect to see them more owned in the higher dollar contest than I do in the mini max once again, and I completely agree with it. I like the idea of getting to more Kansas City. I can't disagree with you. I mean, 6 guys at 2,300 or below, the 3 guys that are in the 4Ks absolutely are warranted from an ownership perspective. I have nothing else to add here. I have started to get a little bit more Kansas City on a daily basis, similar to you. So today seems like another day to do that. Anything else here?
No, I'm trying to figure out what changed in the Kansas City lineup.
All right. While you figure that out, I'll talk a little bit about PrizePicks, presenting sponsor of this show. First and foremost, let's do this. Use the promo code AWESEMO when you sign up at PrizePicks, AWESEMO. Get $100 match deposit bonus. It's a fantastic deal. So if you don't have $100, that's okay. If you've only got 50, they'll match with 50. But if you can get the 100 in, you should put the 100 in, get them to match. You don't have to worry about sharks or optimizers. We're talking about player props here. We're looking over unders. So you can use a lot of the tools at stokastic.com, whether you're using OddsShopper or stuff behind the paywall, using our friend of the program, Eric Lindquist's PrizePicks videos have been exceptional. Go ahead and use those. Adam and I are going to work through a couple different options for you today. So, Adam, are you ready for some PrizePicks?
I will be in 1 second.
Perfect.
And by 1 second, I mean like 15.
Okay, that will work as well. I'm going to go with the first one. Your boy Daniel Lynch, over under 21.5.
Over.
Okay. I got the slight under. I don't think you'll be surprised by that. Opposite side of this one. Tyler Mahle, over under 35.5.
Under.
Yeah.
Same trend as always.
Yep. We're going to hit everyone that we've done so far. So we'll do Nick Lodolo, over under. Where do I have it? 26.5.
26.5?
Yeah.
Over.
Okay. I have the under.
How?
I got him at 24.2.
We have him at 31.6 for what it's worth.
What do we have him projected for real on DraftKings?
17.3.
Jesus. If he's 17.3, everybody that plays with our stuff is going to be getting a lot more than the 14% we project. Not that I'm saying that that's wrong or anything. I'm just saying, like,
what do you have?
We are going to be a Nick Lodolo site. 13.
I'm at 16.1.
Okay. Yeah, I'm low. I love the park. That's neither here nor there. Yeah, we're going to be a Nick Lodolo site. So if Nick Lodolo goes well, I think we're going to see a lot of Stokastic icons at the top of the leaderboard. How about Ranger Suarez coming in at 28.5?
Where'd he go? Very, very slight under.
Yeah, I got him at 27.8. So kind of the exact same mark as that projection. We'll close it out. Nats and Cubs. Corey Abbott. I don't even know if he has one. Doesn't. Which means we can skip Corey Abbott. We'll go to Drew Smiley. Drew Smiley is on PrizePicks, so we can talk that one. 29.5 for Smiley.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy under.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Drew Smiley, 3 fantasy points ahead of Nick Lodolo on PrizePicks.
That's insane. Wait, well, yeah, that's crazy.
Smiley 29.5, Nick Lodolo 26.5.
Yeah, that's insane.
I've got Lodolo by 0.8 of a point on DraftKings. That's a big time gap, man. That's kind of wild. I have Lodolo 24.2, and then I have Smiley 23.4. So I've got him by about a point.
I have Lodolo by 1.5 on DraftKings.
Okay. Yeah, so we're in the same sort of ballpark there, relatively speaking. Wow. So what do you have Smiley at then? Like 15 and change or something?
Yeah, like 15.
Okay. Yeah, I got him at 12.2. So I also think that I'm just sort of, when we do this sort of exercise, I'm just lower.
Right.
Clean across the board too. Okay. Let's go to game number 4. Blue Jays and Orioles. 4.9 run implied total for the Blue Jays, 3.9 for the Orioles. Ross Stripling and Austin both. No ownership really coming into Stripling, 5%. Both is at 1%. I like Ross Stripling more than any other pitcher today relative to ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going under-owned. I don't think he's likely to go like too deep into this game. I kind of assume if they get 5 innings out of him, they'll probably be happy. But at no ownership on a 6-game slate, that's fine. And this is a bad Baltimore lineup. I talk a lot about how typically like 1 through 5, 1 through 6, they're good, and then it drops off. But when you take Adley Rutschman out of this lineup, it just shortens the lineup. Like Now you have Ryan McKenna hitting 6th, Rougned Odor hitting 7th. He's horrible. Jorge Mateo, he has power, but he's a below average hitter overall. And then Robinson Chirinos, a huge downgrade from Rutschman. So now it's 1 through 5, but 5 is Urias, who's like a league average hitter. So it sets up as a pretty good spot for Stripling, and I do think he should be getting more ownership than he is.
Yeah, his ownership is a real problem for me. I'm ending up getting to a lot of Stripling because of basically 5% ownership. So
I still don't think I'll get to a lot, but I think he's like a good differentiation play.
Like the problem for me, like I'm taking anything that Smiley's getting and immediately giving it to Stripling. Like
so the problem for
default.
me is I've basically the same projection on Stripling that I do Lynch.
Yeah, so I have Stripling by 3 there. Stripling, by the way, does not have a PrizePicks projection, so I can't even pull it up if I wanted to. But I've got Stripling quite a bit ahead of Lynch. What about your boy on the opposite side, Austin Voth?
I don't think you can get to him in DFS. The only thing that I was going to point out when I told you that you probably had a bad projection on him is Baltimore made this guy a lot better. His career numbers, I think you can kind of just throw out the window at this point. He came over from the Nats this year. Like, this is somebody that for his career has a 4.6 xFIP, has struck out 22% of hitters. He commented after coming over that Baltimore's given him access to data and information that he didn't know existed. And as a starter this year, which basically is just with Baltimore, 23.7% strikeout percentage, 3.66 xFIP, only walking 6.5% of hitters. I think he's just a much better pitcher than he has been at any point in his career.
I got him at 21% K rate, 8% walk rate. So I don't think that's anything too crazy. FIP is probably a little bit higher than it should be at this point, but I don't think I'm too far off, and I don't think it's changing anything for today, at least.
Yeah, and I guess I want to clarify that too. Like, he's still facing the Blue Jays. I'm still not looking to roster him, and I still want to get to the Blue Jays. I just think that in general, I think that it's kind of like a trap that people just say like, oh, Austin Voth, he sucks. Like, he does not suck.
Let's talk Blue Jays bats here. As much as I'm sure you want to start with the Orioles, the Blue Jays are first in ownership today. They are 4th in our top stack tool, which seems surprising sometimes, but I have them 3rd with the exact same top stack odds, so I can't really argue. They are expensive, but they are fully warranted with their ownership as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I don't think the pricing is going to matter too much either because we have such a good like mid-range of pitching. They look good here. Like I said, I think Voth is better than people give him credit for, but you're still talking about a really, really good offense. So far this year, 147 expected ISO to righties, 174 to lefties. You're just getting a bunch of right-handed power bats here. So, like, again, I don't look at this matchup against Voth and say like, oh, this is a great spot, but it's a 6-game slate, and this is the first offense we've talked about that is like legitimately good.
Cash options here. Obviously, I mentioned Vlad before, but Springer as well. What else?
Yeah,
what else
I think
are you seeing?
I think Springer's in there. Vlad is obviously fine. Like I said, I'm just getting a ton of Hoskins. Those are probably the 2.
Okay. Let's see what else I got in that crunch. Do I still have it open? I do. Yeah, Vlad got to 40%. Springer got to 30%. That looks to be the extent of Blue Jays, but that'll do it for me. Go ahead. Floor is yours here. 6th in top stack, 6th in ownership. Tell me why the Orioles should be the top stack for today.
I didn't think I would get to him yesterday, and then that'd be my highest owned stack. I don't think I'll get to a lot today either. Like I said, Rutschman not being in this lineup just makes them a lot more difficult to get to because that's one thing that drives them up for me is that you're getting like a really good hitting catcher, and now they don't have that. Stripling is a solid pitcher as well. I actually don't have that much interest in Baltimore.
I'm shocked to hear that. So let's see. Lock is in like 15 minutes or whatever. I'll be sure to check my DMs at 12:36 when you're like, oh, I got a 44% Orioles.
Yeah, I'll be happy if I have lineups at this point.
Well, you do have 2 more games to talk about. I'll give you a couple seconds to get a little bit of work in. MLB Live. One big word, all caps. That's the promo code you're looking for today. If you're looking to get behind the paywall, if you're trying to get behind the paywall, use that promo code MLB Live. One big word, all caps. Get your first week of Stokastic Plus Platinum for 50% off. I think it's a really nice time to be getting in the door. NFL preseason is here. So if you're an NFL fan, that's going to be pretty interesting, I would imagine. All of our MLB content behind the paywall. Golf rounding its way out, but you would get access to the BMW Championship for this week. Whatever sort of auto racing is going on is behind the paywall. F1 or trucks, Adam's favorite thing. MMA, great time to be in for MMA. We've got a UFC pay-per-view coming up this Saturday. I won't be playing any UFC, so you guys have a better chance. Tennis exists behind the paywall, something that I've been dipping my toe in. Soccer as well. So much stuff for you guys to check out as long as you use that promo code MLB Live, one big word, and hit that thumbs up so that we can get up over that 150 mark. Angels and Mariners, 3.6 run implied total for the Angels, 5 for the Mariners. Touki Toussaint and George Kirby going here. No ownership going to Toussaint. I don't really like the idea of going to him and targeting against the Mariners. 23% ownership going to Kirby, who I am very interested in GPPs given his current ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm more in line with the field on Kirby. Like we had talked about him compared to Tyler Mahle. I think that Kirby and Mahle are similarly overowned in terms of like optimal percentage versus ownership. So I don't really see a big difference there, but I do really like the matchup. I expect Kirby to throw around 85 pitches, really good strikeout matchup, good young pitcher around the 24% strikeout percentage this year, 3.41 xFIP. He's good. It's a good matchup. I like getting there. I think the field is pretty much correct with the ownership.
Mahle at 35.5 on PrizePicks, Kirby 33.5. Just for reference sake, which is basically the gap that I have them for on DraftKings as well. Mahle a little bit ahead. Not warranted, basically double the ownership. That's where I think the problem really is coming in. Toussaint,
pretty tough sell for me. He's got decent strikeout stuff, but walks a ton of guys, has just never figured out how to throw strikes, was a highly regarded prospect and just has never been able to put it together. And like you said, you're talking about a solid Mariners lineup now that they have Rodriguez back, Mitch Haniger back. It's a difficult spot to get to Toussaint, I think. Like I would rather just play Stripling.
I agree that Stripling is the guy to go to at the bottom for sure. Now we got to talk about the Mariners here. Number 1 in our top stack tool, 7th in top value, 2nd in aggregate ownership. We're seeing Julio Rodriguez and Mitch Haniger get to 20% ownership. I don't think that that's all that crazy. We're seeing Ty France and Jesse Winker get into the 10 to 15 range, Suarez as well. Do you like this Seattle stack against Toussaint?
Yeah, I do. He's somebody that's just going to get behind in counts. He walks a lot of guys. Obviously, the walks aren't what you're looking for in DFS, but getting in hitters counts is very favorable. And you have a lot of power in this lineup. You know, obviously Rodriguez and Haniger, but Jesse Winker from the left side, Suarez and Ty France both have power. Cal Raleigh as a catching option has power. So I do like Seattle quite a bit here.
Yeah, hard not to, as far as I'm concerned. I think they look really good. I had Rodriguez get to 60% of my no randomness crunch, so I'm thinking Julio Rodriguez in a cash lineup is very likely. Mitch Haniger got to
99 of the 100 I built.
32% for Mitch Haniger, so I think that's also more than reasonable. But in outfield, there are multiple options at outfield that can make your lineup work, but they both are there. Winker certainly sneaking into some options as well, 3,700, depending on if you prefer him to Haniger, but not going to be difficult to get to some Mariners if you want to in a cash game, Rodriguez in particular. And then we get to the Angels, 11th in top stack, so they're not dead last. 9th in top value, that's pretty bad. Are the Angels the worst stack today?
I think so. Like Ohtani, assuming he's in the lineup, looks good. Rengifo has second base, third base eligibility. Taylor Ward's not bad, but yeah, this is a really tough team to get to, I think.
It's pretty brutal. I didn't really get to much here. I can't even add, like, obviously any lineup that you ever want to make that has Shohei Ohtani in it, by all means. I can't justify the Angels. I think it's easier to justify going to the Phillies or going to the Reds rather. This Angels team is not very good. I got nothing else to say here. I got nothing else on the Seattle side.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've a mistake in my spreadsheet. I'm trying to figure out what the hell it is.
No worries. I'm going to kick it over to the final game for the slate. Marlins and Padres. 3.1 run implied total for the Marlins, 3.9 for the Padres. That's going to be Pablo Lopez and Mike Clevinger. Mike Clevinger right now, probably my favorite pitcher overall on today's slate. I don't think that the Marlins are particularly good. The park plays well, at least to negate right-handed power. Slight pitcher's park from a runs perspective. Clevinger is 7,900. He's projected for 35% ownership. That's the second highest ownership mark behind Tyler Mahle. I have Mike Clevinger as the highest projected pitcher on today's slate. I would like as much Mike Clevinger as I can really get to without any sort of craziness. He's my favorite today.
Yep. He's the other pitcher in every cash lineup I built. I think he looks really good as well. I have him projected second behind Mahle, getting a little bit less ownership as well. I think similarly over-owned in terms of like optimal percentage versus ownership percentage. He's a good pitcher, 22.3% strikeout percentage, 4.27 xFIP so far this year, but a solid spot against Miami as well. So I'm with you in getting to Clevinger.
Yeah, to me, he just stands out. Like, I can't look at him and Suarez next to each other based on where I have them projected and think that they should have like relatively comparable ownership. I just want more Suarez. Similarly, like I've got him ahead of Tyler Mahle at $900 cheaper or $800 cheaper, whatever it is. I want to have more ownership there as well. So Clevinger's my guy, and I'm not mad about that because I generally like getting to Clevinger.
Yep.
Or at least I used to 4 years ago. What about Pablo Lopez, though? 8,900, second most expensive pitcher on today's slate, and pulling 18% ownership against the Padres. That scares me.
I actually have him going under-owned here.
So do I, by the way. 22% in my top pitcher tool.
Yeah, I mean, 24.4% strikeout percentage, 3.5 xFIP. He's a good pitcher. It's obviously a scary matchup against the Padres. No Tatis still for a very long time, but tough team to strike out. Really good hitters. There's not like a strong case for Lopez in terms of like this is why he's going to do well, but he is a good pitcher and he's just not getting as much ownership as some other guys.
Yeah, like I clearly don't like targeting against the Padres. While he is a solid strikeout pitcher, this is a place where strikeouts go to die. Based on Steamer, only Drury and Grisham project for higher than 22% strikeout rates. Sorry, higher than 19% strikeout rates. That is the next highest number. 7 of the 9 guys in the Padres lineup that I have right now are 19% or below strikeout rates. So very difficult spot there. But that said, I'm with you. Our top pitchers tool, 21% to be the top pitcher, 13% top value. When I ran it, it was 22% and 10%. But it's basically the same thing. He's getting 18% ownership. I think he's probably getting slept on a little bit. Do I think that I can make better lineups without him? I do. Right. But at the same time, like on paper, if you want to get there based on his ownership, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, basically the way I see it is he projects similarly to guys like Lodolo, Kirby, Suarez, Smiley. So from a value standpoint, like you're just going to get better projected lineups by not going there, but he's also getting not as much ownership as most of those guys. So when you factor that in, that pushes him up a little bit. Not sure exactly how much I'll get to. I'm still crunching lineups, but I'll have that answer hopefully in the next 10 minutes.
So they're basically Lodolo's more expensive, basically the same ownership. Do you prefer Lopez or Lodolo?
They're very, very similar to me in terms of like what they're doing in my lineup.
Okay.
I think Lodolo is slightly more under-owned.
Okay.
But both. Those are the two guys that I think in that, like, of the good pitchers that are under-owned.
I got 8.5% of both of them. So much like what you were saying, they are doing the same sort of things in my lineups.
Yeah. So in Fantasy Cruncher right now, I have 20% Lopez and 16% Lodolo.
Okay.
Obviously, that's not what I'm necessarily playing, but that's how it's shaking out.
7th in top stack at 6.5%, 11th in ownership at 3%. They are very difficult to get to from a salary perspective. However, are the Padres getting aggressively slept on here?
I think they are extremely under-owned.
Yeah, you and me both. I don't know if a 5-man is sort of the way that I want to go here on this slate, but I feel like they're making up a 2 to 3 person chunk in basically everything I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, this game is just weird because I already said I think Lopez is going on their own, but also the Padres. So it just strikes me as a spot where the pricing isn't super favorable on either side. And the Padres are good, Lopez is good, but I think this is a spot on a 6-game slate that I want to attack.
Yeah, you and me both. Just based on our raw data, like I had them with a slightly higher. I have the same rank, 7th top stack, 12th top value, but I actually had them almost a full percentage point higher in terms of odds of being the top stack, which is just going to make them pull away even further. Clearly expensive to get to. Can't roster Josh Bell and Brandon Drury at the same time, but I'll get over it because this lineup looks damn good. I have it as the best lineup on the slate. For them to get 3% ownership in this spot, clearly we should be respecting Pablo Lopez, and the park doesn't help, but I think they're getting slept on too much for this particular slate.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like my version of top stack percentage, which is more of like an optimal percentage, but I have them behind Toronto, Seattle, Philly, the Cubs, and the Twins.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, I thought you said you had them first.
No, I have them 7th in terms of top stack, same as us, but a percentage point ahead of us. So maybe you heard one like that. No, oh, sorry. I see what you're saying. So like aggregate WRC plus as a group of hitters, got it. I think they're the best offense on this slate.
Yeah.
Independent of salary.
Yeah.
And independent of matchup as well. Just raw talent. And it's, Padres 118, Mariners 117, Blue Jays 116. We're quibbling here. But go ahead.
So I have 16% Pablo Lopez. I have 5% George Kirby.
Okay. Well, so you should probably do something different then.
Yeah, probably.
Would you like me to hand you everything that I have so that you can get to George Kirby?
Holy hell. I have a lot of Mariners.
I'm going to put a pin in this one for right now, unless you want to come back to the Marlins later. But actually, I didn't even say those words correctly. I need more coffee or caffeine or something. I feel like a moron today. What I feel very comfortable in saying is this. The Marlins are 12th in top stack, 12th in ownership. They're not even the best value that we've got going today. Are the Marlins just simply skippable?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, just check.
I have them in like 1% of lineups right now.
All right, perfect.
Also, I'm not getting to a lot of Padres, which is disappointing.
Well, it's probably really hard to do that when you have 50% Royals, 50% Orioles.
I do have 11% Orioles. I have like no Kansas City.
Okay, well then clearly you uploaded something incorrectly. Seems like it, at least. Seems like it. All right, so if we can, since we have, like 6 minutes to go before lock, give me your best guess at your favorite stacks for today.
All right, let me refresh.
Okay. And then I'll try to take the reins for the final 5 minutes while you get your shit together.
Seattle is apparently clearly by a very, very wide margin my favorite stack.
Okay.
Cubs, Orioles, Angels for reasons. Don't know what those are. I'm guessing it's just a lot of Ohtani, but
okay. And then favorite pitchers might be difficult for you to do, but obviously Molly, Clevenger.
Molly, Clevenger. In tournaments, Lopez, Lynch.
Okay. YouTube chat, if you want to get some questions in, we've got a couple of minutes to go ahead and get those answered. Feel free. Premium Discord, if you're watching, drop some questions in. I will take as much as I can. I will throw them at Adam. Whether or not he responds to me will be up in the air, but I will at least present those questions. I'm like a lawyer getting an offer for his client. Like I'm required to present them. Whether or not he cares doesn't really matter. Josh Gillum says, Phillies stack for the win. I will say that they are my second most exposed team at this juncture. And in case anybody cares, the Mariners were my biggest fade. So,
all right, so there's that. Very opposite sides there.
Yes, we are. Let's see if we've got anything popping up in Discord. We do not. Colin Richardson said Kirby pitch count concerns.
85-ish is my expectation.
Yeah. I got him in for 5 innings. Concern is less than it normally would be just because of the size of the slate.
Yeah.
And I think the ownership number, at least as of right now, is helping that a little bit. Or at least not hurting it. Probably the better way to say it.
Yeah, so the way it's basically shaking out for me, it looks like offense-wise, like I'm getting a ton of Seattle, but I'm basically fading Toronto. I'm under on Philly. I'm under on Philly. I have very little Toronto, very little Minnesota. I'm over on the Cubs. I'm over on Seattle out of the popular teams.
Okay.
And like by over on Seattle, I mean massively, massively over on Seattle.
Basically, we're flip-flopping the Phillies and Seattle in that I am over there and under on Seattle, and you were lighter there. I'm with you, though, not getting the Twins. 3-minute chill wants to know if anyone's getting into Rainmakers. Adam is. I am not. Have you seen anything about if they're doing that for NBA?
I have not.
Okay. Because obviously that would be more likely for me to get into Rainmakers.
For sure.
And
yeah,
be
my only
disaster.
concern there, and I don't really know what to do about it. I have a pretty strong feeling that I want to play it and that there's going to be money to be made, but also that it's going to take up way too much of my Sunday mornings to
Fair.
actually like be something that I can play.
Fair. I haven't looked into it at all. Like I don't care about football, and like that is just never going to be anything I'm putting any time into. I've been incredibly jealous that you guys have been opening packs. Like I get the shakes when I see you guys doing that, and I'm not participating. But no, I can't.
Well, if you saw what I bought 100 packs the other night and got like absolutely nothing out of it, so you shouldn't have been jealous of those.
I was jealous of you opening the packs. I'm not jealous of you buying them.
Sure.
You should. Oh man, you should next time you do it, if you want some extra luck, just send me 20 of them. I'll open them and then send you everything back. Aaron Rasmus on DraftKings. Kirby or Clevenger for head-to-heads and 50-50s? That is Clevenger. Yeah.
Man, I hope the Seattle lineup is somewhere close to what it's projected to be.
You can get Jay Buhner, Griffey, Edgar Martinez.
71% Julio Rodriguez.
I mean, that's a stand to take.
40 to 50 on all of Suarez, Crawford, Frazier, Raleigh, Haniger. 33 on Winker, 31 on France.
If the Mariners go nuts today and you don't win the slate, you should have to like take a day of just wear a dunce cap or something. Just full
pitching
shame.
wise, 75% Malley, 49% Clevenger, 17 Suarez, 16 Lopez, 13 Smiley, 12 Lodolo, 7 on Abbott for some reason. Only 5 on Lynch is surprising. 5 on Kirby is terrifying. 1 on Stripling.
It's wild how I have Seattle as my biggest fade of stacks and George Kirby as my biggest stand of pitching, and you have the opposite.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh wait, no, they're not facing each other, so no, it has nothing to do with each other.
No, they're the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're the same Seattle Mariners.
They positively correlate, if anything.
Oh man. All right. Yeah, Josh Gillum. I don't know if Michael Harris got the bag, but he did get money.
How do the Braves get these guys to do this?
Yeah, I don't know. They must. My guess was like private investigators to like be like, "Yo, remember when you used those slurs on social media when you were 18?" I don't know. Yeah. So like, yeah, he got 72 million. The Braves continue to take these youngsters and make them sign significantly below market deal. I feel like they're signing under duress.
Right. Like my guess on Twitter last night was just that they have access to hookers that like even SEC coaches can't get and bribe these guys.
It is wild. Yeah. Albie's contract was like a true mistake.
I mean, but so was Acuna. He signed for like $100 million.
Yeah, but I think Albie's was just like
Albie's was 80.
Albie's they could have doubled, and people would be like, "Wow, Albie's got a deal."
Right.
So nuts. All right, we are locked here, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Deeper dive coming up later. Live before lock coming up later. Adam will have his GPP video. So thank you for being here. Good luck on this early slate, and we will talk to you later. Thank you, PrizePicks.